Hello, folks. Well, this is Southwick Stories, Episode 9, Season 2. Jim, does that sound right?
Sounds good.
Yeah, and we have a great person with us. She's known me for a long time, but you really never call me by my real name. You're always yelling at me. But Pat Odiorne, I said it correctly?
Yes,
How
that
are you
was
today?
fine. I'm fine.
And we're here to talk about baking? Is that what I was told?
No, we're
No.
going to talk about the Southwick Historical Society.
Historical Society.
That's
Where are
what
they
I was
located?
asked to talk about.
That's the old cigar barn?
Part of it.
Part of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's at 8688 College Highway, about a mile north of the border with
Yeah.
Connecticut. And at one time, that whole area was part of the JOG, which for 30 years was part of Connecticut, and then it came back. So from 1774, before the Revolution, to 1804, it was part of Connecticut.
Well, that's right about when Jim was born, so we'll have Jim start with the questions.
Well, I appreciate that vote of confidence. So pleased to have Pat with us today to talk about lots of things Southwick history, because she has had a passion and tremendous hard work over many years. I won't say how many years, we'll let you say that part, but many years saving Southwick history, interpreting it, taking it out to the school children, and being a moving member of the Southwick Historical Society. We'll talk about all of that today in this conversation. So welcome, Pat. And let me start off with a blinding glimpse of the obvious question, but how and when did you become interested in Southwick history?
I was working for Gilbert Arnold on the Gilbert Arnold Tobacco Company as a one-girl office. And he was president of the Southwick Historical Society, and he asked me to join. And I was a one-girl office, and on Wednesdays, I couldn't finish the payroll because payroll was done on Thursdays, and I didn't have Wednesday's hours. So on Wednesday, I would be sitting there twiddling my thumbs, and I said, Gib, can you give me something to do to keep me busy? So he said, well, we've got these manuscripts that I'd sure like you to read and type them up. So every Wednesday, after I'd finished the list of the payroll, I would type them up. So we have now from town meeting records from 1775 to 1853, 3 different volumes. And this story is kind of fun. I would type them up, and then he would compare the manuscript to what I typed. And if there was a discrepancy, of course, we'd have to talk about it. So anyway, we had this one guy whose name was Rofaxon Rogers, Rofaxan. And that's the way I said it. Read it. He said, that can't be a good name. So I decided that I was going to look at some other records and see if I could find him again. So we also were working on the censuses. So 1790, he showed up. Rofaxon Rogers. I said, see? So I made cards for each of the censuses.
Wow.
So these are many Rolodexes worth, before computers, many Rolodexes worth of censuses. And then if we found a person in the census, we would put them on the same card. So like if you have Moses Noble, for example, Moses Noble signed a petition in 1765. He was a proprietor in 1784. His marriage banns were published in Southwick. He was a member of the Congregational Church. He was in Town Meeting Book 1 and 2, Maud Davis's History, and Noble Genealogy, genealogy number, that's his name. So all of these people are from 1790, and then going back, if we could find them, and going forward to 1950, which is the last one that has been published, available for people. The
How many
census,
years did it take you to do that, Pat?
well, I started in the 80s,
Okay.
and I just completed 1950 a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And, I keep adding to it all the time. People say, well, why don't you put it on the computer? I said, well, you've got to do every single card.
That's the next generation's
Yeah.
challenge.
I mean,
right?
it's horsework.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
It's not fun work. It's horsework.
But-
This is fun, finding all the
Yeah.
different places that person shows up.
Well,
So you're on a first-name basis with Southwick residents from 1774 or before to 1950, and of course everybody since 1950 that stayed around for very long, you got to meet them in person. How cool is that?
I always say, I know these people personally.
Yeah.
They show up over and over again as, oh yeah, this is that person.
wow.
If it wasn't for
So-
the fact that most of them have passed on, you'd send them a Christmas card, right?
Right.
You'd have your Christmas card list right there.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
How cool is that?
Right.
Now I want to go back. You described transcribing these manuscripts, but in your typical fashion, you made it sound like easy piece of cake. Read the manuscript, typed it up. You and Gib discussed it, finalized it, all done. But describe what those manuscripts were like, and for you to work with and read what was on there. Because if I understand correctly, they were handwritten in very elegant script. Is that correct? So describe what those manuscripts were like.
They were sometimes in elegant.
Sometimes.
Elegant script. You get kind of used to looking at somebody's handwriting, and it's a habit kind of thing. And often the town meeting records would say, this is the list of fence viewers, this is the list of other offices that were in the town, and so you get familiar with what should be there, and then you go looking for that, and it's fun. It's really fun.
Is it fair to say it was probably almost like learning a new language, because not only was it in not so elegant handwriting sometimes, but different kinds of names like Mr. Rogers, Rufhausen, is that his?
Rofaxon.
Rofaxon,
Yeah.
close enough.
Yeah.
So different kinds of names, and probably some different terminology, right? You
Yes,
mentioned fence
yes.
viewers, which probably most people in Southwick now would have never heard of, but back then were very important, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think the selectmen just took it off of the, there was still a line item for a fence viewer. I think Herb Pace was the last one.
He was the last one, yes.
Yeah, and I believe the selectmen discontinued that line.
Well,
So maybe
that
they need
makes
a letter.
sense.
No, it doesn't. Not after we hear it this way. It does not.
And-
Well, I mean, everything is in its time, and a
Okay.
fence viewer is not useful now,
True.
so.
So, and the connection, just so people, understand, but at the town meeting we had the other night, up on the stage sat the town clerk with the select board and the finance committee and all the other dignitaries up there, and she takes minutes to this day. Now, she probably, they're a little bit more legible for whoever wants to look at them, but taking the minutes of the town meeting, not basically, it does record all the transacted business and is a, official record.
Permanent record.
Permanent record.
Permanent record, yeah.
So, if somebody's listening to this program and they say, well, I'd like to look at some of those early town meeting records, where would they go find those, Pat?
They're in the Southwick Historical Society, the typed up ones, and the originals are in the town clerk vault.
Okay.
Yeah. So you need special permission to look at the originals, but most people just look at the typed, you know.
Yep.
They figure, well, most of us probably did it right, you know, whatever.
So how does it, just to complete this story, because it's fascinating, I never realized that you had that, and what a resource it's going to be for Southwick historians forever going forward.
Yeah,
Because those people are not on the internet.
Not anymore. No, that would have been pre-internet.
Pre-internet.
Yeah.
So, but at some point, will the 1960 census become available and go into this Rolodex?
In 2032.
Okay.
It takes 12 years after 72 years after it's been taken.
For
Yeah.
confidential,
So-
for privacy reasons, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They figured, in those days, when they set it up, they figured most people didn't live long enough to have their names in it.
Right.
You know, now we have people who live a long time, and they get their names in maybe 2 or 3 censuses
Yeah.
before they pass on.
So Joe
Yeah.
and Ken, let's make a mental note to have
Oh, yeah.
Pat back in 2033.
2033.
And it should probably need a updated Rolodex. If you can buy one of those, you probably only get it on eBay or something.
I had trouble getting new cards
yeah, I bet.
for the 1950.
I bet.
Yeah.
So that's a fascinating story to lead off. So when you and Gib Arnold got done with that adventure, what was the next step in your journey with Southwick history?
Well, I was going to start you with the Southwick Historical Society history.
Let's go.
That's what you
Let's
asked
go.
me for. So, in 1970, on the 200th anniversary of the town, 200th, not 250th like we had, on the 200th anniversary of the town, there was a display of historical things that people had accumulated, and the people who were involved decided that it would be nice if there was a permanent place for those things that they had accumulated, and hopefully there would be more. So they got together and they formed an organization called the Southwick Historical Society in 1971. And in 1985, they were incorporated as the Southwick Historical Society Incorporated. And then each year they would do fundraisers with the idea that eventually they would have a place to put all those things. They had them in temporary places that weren't very satisfactory.
Yeah.
Probably not safe for a lot
That's
of those
true.
items, yeah.
That's true. So they had tag sales and food sales and, other ways of making money. Sometimes people would make donations, but not any significant amount of money. Well, in 1998, the what we now call the Joseph Moore House became available. And if we had not acquired it, I got to say it right, if we had not acquired it, it would have been taken down, which sounds a little bit like what happened with the cigar factory, but I'm getting ahead of my story.
We'll get there too.
Yeah. So anyway, this is the oldest picture that we have of the Moore House, and that's when the Nicholsons lived there. The Nicholsons lived there from 1870 to 1930, and the Moores lived there for like 80 years too, but of course there were no photographs for them. So this is the first one. And when the property became available, we bought the land. And the house was given to us as a gift. And the reason that happened was because it would not have passed code.
Gotcha.
So anyway, this is one picture as we were going along.
I'll move the pictures for you.
As we were going along, to show you what a lot of work it needed.
I'll take that for you.
Okay, what a lot of work it needed. It needed new sills on the bottom. It needed a new roof. It needed to have the siding taken off. There was aluminum siding, and then below that was asphalt siding, and then we got down to the clapboards. And this is just one picture of many, many hundreds of pictures that we've taken along the way. And these were a bunch of Boy Scouts who helped us out. And you can see it badly needs paint, and the framing is in need of help. All these things were necessary for us to be able to use it.
Pat, just for reference here, you may have said it, but about what year was the Moore House built?
I didn't say that. It was built in 1751.
So it's among the oldest houses in
Right,
Southwick.
right.
Not the very oldest. But,
Right.
certainly in that section of town.
Right, the oldest house in the jog. I think we can safely say
Okay.
that. And Joseph Moore built it, and he was a patriot in the American Revolution. He was 50 years old. He put a pack on his back, picked up his gun, and was in the Connecticut 18th Regiment. And he went down to New York, and he served under General George Washington. Poor George lost all the battles in New York, and Joseph was taken prisoner from the Battle of Kips Bay. And because he was an officer, he was held in a hotel in New York City, while most of his men were in the prison ships on, in the harbor.
Yeah.
In the harbor. And Joseph died down there. He had dysentery and passed. So we have a memorial stone for him. We don't think he's buried up here.
Okay.
He's buried probably down there. But, yeah. So anyway, the Moores lived in it from 1751 to 1840s. And Roger Moore brought out all his brothers and sisters. He had a big family. He bought it out. And in the course of his life, from 1751 to 1838, he lived in 2 colonies, Massachusetts Bay and Connecticut Colony. He lives in 2 states, Massachusetts, Connecticut, 3 counties, Hartford, Hampshire, and Hampden, and 4 towns. He lived in Westfield before, he lived in Southwick after, and in the middle, he lived in Simsbury, and then when Granby broke off from Simsbury, he lived in Simsbury. So that's the claim to fame of that particular house. And when the committee decided that we were going to take the plunge, that was one of the reasons that we chose that particular house. And this is what it looked along the way. I think I've got a date on that. That's 2000.
2000.
Yeah, that's the front. And then that's the back. After a lot of work has been done, as you can see from the terrible setup that we had when we started. I mean, the expression "you've come a long way, baby," boy, that's us. We have.
And a tremendous amount of volunteer work, and I realize some of the expert stuff was purchased, but a tremendous amount of volunteer sweat equity in achieving that, correct?
Right. And James Putnam Sr. cut some sills for us from the back 40 on his land.
Yep. We have pictures of him down there with the tractor cleaning up the brush and the accumulated trash and so forth.
Right. We had so many volunteers through the years. It was just wonderful. Yeah. Jim and your mother.
Yeah.
And Arlene Hughes and George Hughes, and I probably will miss some names, but they're all in here.
That they are.
They're all in here. So anyway, we have a person who has done probably the most, and that's Lee Hamburg.
Oh, jeez.
And
Lee-
we did talk to Lee one day
Yep.
here.
Lee, it was Lee's idea to purchase the house, and he pushed with various people to make a committee. Gib Arnold was one, and I don't know some of the others, but I know that it was Gib. And we went to Mr. and Mrs. Waterman, who owned it, and asked them to sell it to us. And of course, we just bought the land. So we had a very significant mortgage on it. And we have been paying on the mortgage by the month, every month.
Just like buying a home.
Yeah, it's the same thing. And what have I got here?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Lee.
That's Lee, yes.
This is one of his
This is-
his many projects. This is a door that he created, and this one of these walls, he had the whole wall all laid out on the floor, and he just put it up in one day. I watched him. I took pictures, in sequence, and it just was awesome. I mean, he's an awesome guy, and he works on it steadily.
And he's
Through the-
meticulous
through
in
the-
terms of getting back to the original details, correct?
Right,
Yes.
right. He studies before
Yeah.
he starts doing construction.
That looks like a little bit younger Lee than the
Yeah.
one that we interviewed, but no, time's moving on with all of us. But
He has been at it for years and
His-
years
pretty much
and
his whole
years.
adult
Yeah,
life.
Yeah, and he would do it on Saturdays and Sundays because he had a regular steady
Yeah.
work job. And one of the things that we do, what we do is have events, and this is the 25th Massachusetts. 25th Massachusetts Regiment. They did a demonstration for us. And that's you'll have to see it afterwards because you can see them from the back.
Yeah.
Anyway, they did a demonstration for us, and they also dedicated the gravestone for Joseph Moore that is in Connecticut,
Okay.
and they had their parade gear on, and they did that. So anyway, this is the land north of the Moore House. And we needed it for parking and for events like that. So we had a bequest of $50,000. And what we decided to do was buy 1 acre of land north of the Moore House, so we would have it for parking and events like that. Well, along came the possible destruction of the cigar factory. And this is it was a very tiny, tiny picture, but this is the factory over here, and that's the Methodist Church.
So I think I've got this right, but the
Yeah.
factory's on this side
That's right.
over in the
The-
corner.
the little
and then
tiny
this is the
Methodist
Methodist Church,
Church.
now
Yeah.
known as the Meeting House, correct?
Correct.
That's right. And if we had not had the land already,
Yeah.
that would have been destroyed because CVS wanted to come in certain length of time.
Yeah.
They weren't going to give us much leeway
No.
on moving it. So what we wanted to do was move it. And this is this is a picture of what it looked like in the spot where it was.
Which would be just to the, for folks that are curious, would be just to the north of where the CVS is now, just kind of over beyond the parking lot, about in there.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And they destroyed several other buildings along the way. You can see that it needed a lot of work.
A fixer-upper, I think they call it.
So anyway, we applied to CPC to get funds, and we were given $300,000 by town meeting, and through the approvals over time, had to go to this committee and then that, and then the select board, and then the CPC in the middle, and then the town meeting. And the town meeting said, yes, 300,000. So our intent was to move it whole. But because of the permitting difficulties, it wasn't going to happen before CVS would say, it's going to go. So we took it down piece by piece and put it in trailers, 3 trailers worth. And the trailers were down in the field that we had purchased near Blossoming Acre, Meadowview.
Meadowview
near
Farms.
Meadowview, for 3 years.
Yep.
While we did the foundation, a new cement foundation, and covered with bricks so that it looked like the original. And this is a bank barn, which means it's set up on a banking, and ours is opposite. The banking
okay.
is opposite from where it sat originally. And you can see all the windows. When it was in use, it needed those windows because there was no electricity. So the ladies who would roll the tobacco into cigars would need the light from all those windows to do their work.
No electric lights back then.
No electric.
Probably don't want to put a kerosene lamp in a cigar factory.
I would think not.
Not a good idea.
No,
Maybe once.
Not
but
wise.
Maybe once,
Maybe
yeah.
once.
And that would be the
That
end.
would be the end, yeah.
Not wise.
No.
So anyway, this is a picture of it along the way. You can see that there aren't any windows in it yet, and you can see the lovely brickwork. Clayt Siegel Jr. did that, and the windows will be in there eventually.
Yeah.
So this is along the way, and this is the dedication of the museum. In order to be open, we had to have a permit. We had to have handicapped bathroom. We had to have a handicapped ramp,
Yeah.
and we had specs, of things that we had to do. And this is our president, Linda Wanson, showing it.
Whoops.
Who,
And I'm just going to hold this. So
Okay.
Linda at the podium.
right? And this is state rep
Michael Knappich.
Michael Knappich, yeah, and that's our select person, Russ Fox, and Dennis Clark
Dennis
was
Clark.
on the conservation, I think, or one committee too, for well, he came anyway.
I think we
I'm not-
need to get them into the Rolodex sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Mr. Fox.
Just in case.
So anyway, October 1st.
So when was the dedication, Pat?
October 1st, 2011.
What a
It
proud
was
date for all of you.
An absolutely marvelous day. It rained and nobody cared.
Right.
Nobody cared. In order to make the handicapped bathroom, we had to take part of the kitchen away. And on the other end, we had to have an extra stairway, so we took the other part of the kitchen for an extra stairway, so that we would be legal having
Yeah.
two egresses.
Yeah.
So it was a massive project.
But it's a beautiful restoration. It's uniquely Southwick because it is a cigar factory from back in the days when they hand-rolled cigars from
Right.
local tobacco.
Right.
And that was probably a significant source of income for, I understand it was mostly women who worked in there.
The women worked in the factory. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
probably
The men would be picking the
Sure.
the tobacco.
tobacco.
Yeah, yeah. And in our museum, we have the whole sequence of, seeding and picking and rolling, tying. Each of them had a function.
Yeah, they
And
did.
a lot of the women would be out in the field doing just certain things, tying and then the boys, mostly boys, would harvest, and they had these big trays that they would put the tobacco leaves into, and they had to be very careful because they were being used whole.
Yeah.
It wasn't like cigarettes that are made crumbly. They had to be perfect leaves.
It was a wrapper.
So, because it was the
The
wrapper
wrapper,
for
yeah.
the tobacco, for the cigar. Yeah, cigar wrapper.
Oh,
Yeah.
Pat, I want to give you the opportunity to do a little impromptu commercial here, but some of our viewers are going to say, "Wow, I've driven by that so many times. I've never been inside to see what it actually looks like." So, what are the opportunities for folks to be able to view a wonderful sliver of Southwick history at the Gillette Tobacco Warehouse?
Our museum, the Southwick History Museum, is open twice a month on the second and fourth Sundays from 2 to 4. And the past couple of years, we have been open a few other times. We're going to be involved with the Farm Day, like we were last year, which is exciting. And also there's a program called History on the Go that the Mass Cultural Council sponsors, and Pioneer Valley History Network organizes it for us. And people can go to us or to Westfield Athenaeum or to the Westfield Old Mechanic Street Cemetery and the Dewey House and the Noble and Cooley Center for History, local history, all of those on one specific day. So that's exciting.
Absolutely.
We're all combining our resources, and if people can't come during those particular times, we're open to suggestion of meeting. Sometimes people come to the library and they say, I'd really like to know some more about Southwick history. So the library says, Pat, can you come? And usually I can, and I meet them and I take them to the cemetery and take them into the house and the cigar factory and answer their questions, whatever they are.
Is it fair to say you had a group of relatives coming back to Southwick for a family reunion or maybe a class reunion, and it wasn't the second or the fourth Sunday of the month, and if it worked out, if somebody contacted the Historical Society and said, hey, we've got 10 people that would like to do a tour and we'd be willing to make a donation, something like that would be strongly considered. Is that scheduling permitting?
That would be lovely.
Yes.
Even without the donation.
Oh, don't leave that out.
When's the family coming in, Jim?
I've already done it.
He has
I've
done
already
that,
I've
yeah.
already done it.
Good for
but-
you.
The Arnolds have had
Oh,
a
I'm
bunch
sure,
of,
yeah.
of people. And one of the classes, Dave Arnold was in the class. They had a class reunion at our place.
Really?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and there were picnic tables out in the back, and we've got pictures. We've got loads of notebooks full of photographs that we would like to share. So anyway, we share some of them in the Around Southwick book, and then Lee made the Southwick Revisited,
Yep.
and there are a lot more photos of Southwick. We figure if they're permanent, then they're not going to go away.
Right.
They're not going to go away.
I know you've got other topics that you want to talk about, but before we leave the museum, right now there is a project going on down there, a fairly extensive project, but I think it's important that our viewers know there's always 5 more projects that need to be done down there, and extremely limited financial resources. It's not the town doesn't provide a budget for this. They do help with the CPC helps
Right.
with major projects
Right.
sometimes, but they don't pay your mortgage or your light
No.
bills or those types of
No.
things.
It's a
And
private organization.
It's a private
Yeah.
organization, and so fundraising is always important. And so give us a little pitch for help us out with your donations and financial support and so forth, because it is important. It's left alone if all of us who are interested in Southwick history don't support it, then things either don't get done or disappear because there wasn't enough resources. So tell us a little bit about that.
We have been applying for grants. We've been Westfield Savings Bank and Berkshire Bank, which was Warren-Oco before, and we get a grant each year for the field trip for the second graders from Shirtcliffe, and we're always asking for people to help us out in any way that they can. It's P.O. Box 323, Southwick, Mass. Southwick Historical Society, Incorporated.
And a website, and I didn't check it before we came here, but I think it's Southwick Historical Society.
HistoricalSociety.org.
.org. Okay.
Yeah,
Southwick
because we're a private organization.
But I think if you just Google Southwick Historical Society, and there's links and so forth
Right,
there that
Right,
give you.
yeah. Southwoods has been very good about providing that for us. Yeah.
But it's just so important, because whenever I talk to you or Lee or some of the other volunteers, there's things that you very badly want to do down there, but it takes a budget, and the monthly mortgage and other things come first.
Insurance.
Insurance, sure,
The
Crazy.
bugbear. That is a major expense. Yeah.
Now, you already segued us to the 3rd grade tour, which I think is just a wonderful thing. So, and you kind of introduced it, but you've been doing it for a number of years, I believe. Tell us about what you do with the 3rd graders.
There are 5 classes, and we hire buses, school buses, and 2 classes go one day, 2 classes go the next day, and the one that's left goes by itself. And we take a tour of Southwick. We go out of Woodland and up around, and we go to what's now Crepes Restaurant, and we show them Great Brook, and then we go to Foster Road, and we talk about all the different roads in Southwick that have 2 names, Claus Anderson, Ed Holcomb, and it's amazing. I don't know any other.
They're in there, aren't
Oh,
they?
they're absolutely in there. Yeah. I don't know any other town that has both names on streets. I just think that's very unusual.
Yeah.
And then we go around to South Long Yard, and we show them the spot in that triangle where there was a schoolhouse. That was one-room schoolhouse, I don't think they get the concept of how tiny those buildings were.
Yeah.
But There are a few that are still in existence. There's the Point Grove School is at the corner of Berkshire and Point Grove Road, and it's been added on to, but you can still see the basic shape of it. And then we go down Berkshire Avenue, and we talk about the ice houses that were on the lake, and we get out and we go on the handicapped fishing pier, and we show them there's a map there that shows the lakes, and we show where the cigar factories, ice houses were. Sorry.
They probably smoked some cigars over there too.
Yeah, ice houses, where they were located and where the town beaches were,
Yeah.
one on Middle and one on South now, and where the flood was. We show them where the flood was. That was one of our stops on North Lake Road. You can see if we ever have that kind of rain again, it'll happen again because it's a gravel dam.
Yeah.
They promised it would be cement, but they didn't follow through on that.
So how many years do you suppose you've been doing the third grade tours with the?
I started in 2001, I think.
So
Yeah,
coming up.
it was through the schools. They had a program. Two teachers, Debbie Gardner,
Gardner.
and Bonnie Wally, had a grant that they wanted to study local history, and they said, well, how about if we go to show the children that, and then it just developed from that. Yeah.
I think you want to talk about the canal and the
Yes.
signage there, so let's
Yes.
move on to that.
We submit articles to Southwoods, and this is one of the articles that they wrote for us.
You want me to hold that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Please. Bob Madison has written a book, and I have it here.
Bump your head now.
New Haven and Northampton Canal Greenway. And he has said that because Southwick is halfway between Northampton and New Haven, that Southwick will be the people who hold on to the money that book makes. So, through the royalties that have come from that book, we have been able to purchase these signs. This sign is right near Crape's Restaurant.
Yep.
It shows where the canal
It does, yeah.
crossed a major artery. So that's there. And then there's one on South Long Yard in Southwick, and there's one on Root Road in Westfield, and Shaker Road in
Yep.
Westfield, where the canal crosses.
Yep.
And then there's one near the arches in Suffield. And we will eventually buy signs for all of those crosses in each of the 16 towns.
Wonderful.
As the money comes in for the royalties from the sale of the book. So the book sells for $19.95, and you can get it from us. The hardcover you can get from Amazon, and it was published by Silver Street Media out of Agawam.
Fascinating book. I've read it, and if you have any interest at all in the canal, the canal era and the history of the canal coming through Southwick, it's fascinating reading because to me, and especially as you walk along some of the places where the canal was, it was an amazing engineering feat in its day. They had no mechanical
Right.
equipment, horses and oxen, and a lot of men.
Bob said, all of these books are in the various libraries along the way, you know. And I said, yes, but Bob, you really need to have one in your pocket as you're hiking along the rail trail.
Yeah.
Because it tells you in each town where you are, what you can look at and visit along the way. You know, not very far off the trail, but every single town has that. He did a marvelous, marvelous job.
Oh, and my understanding is he really had to do a lot of research similar to what you and Gib did with the town meeting records to actually find some of the locations, and especially
Right.
the locks and
Right.
the apparatus that made the canal work.
Right. And he did watercolors of what he thinks the images might be for each of the towns. And so for the Southwick Cultural Council art show, we had his display of the watercolors that he did. Yeah.
And my understanding is there's now a video or something that he did that's in the Southwick Public Library.
He's done several videos now. Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of information about the canal area there.
Right. Yeah. The canal and the railroad was what supplanted the canal, because the canal couldn't run in the winter, and the railroad could. So, yeah.
We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this and put a plug in for this too, Pat. So I'm going to let you know what it is. So I'm going to put that over here and let you tell us a little bit about Around Southwick.
That
And
was
we're going to get this to hold up better, Ken.
Gib and I had accumulated quite a few photographs. We have a thing of any house that's over 100 years old, we've tried to get a photo of. And then we put in a request for people who had pictures that we might use for our book. It's 128 pages, mostly 2 pictures per page, and it tells stories about Southwick. And it's wonderful that people will look at a picture and say, wow, I know that person, and tell something about that story, you know, tell the story. It's a story builder. Yeah, so anyway, those are still available, and then Lee made a new one for the 250th Southwick Revisited, and that's available from us also. Yeah.
And I want to again put in a plug for the Historical Society. Indeed, you can find this in, say, Barnes & Noble or Amazon, but when you buy it there, the Historical Society gets like 22 cents a copy or something. It's not very much. But if you buy it through the Historical Society, then they get several dollars. And so it's very helpful. Several times a year there'll be tag sales and so, or not, there'll be, you know, different events in town where you can purchase these.
Right,
If
right.
you go visit on one of those Sundays, they're available down at the museum.
We have them, yeah.
And
yeah.
so Pat and company would love to sell you one of those directly, one of the Canal
Right.
Greenway books and some other interesting materials.
We have lots of things that
are there.
we would love to sell.
Are they
But-
being sold anywhere else in town? Do I see some at Southwick Florist, I think?
Yes, they
Right?
sell.
They stock
yeah.
some of your stuff?
That's right.
And
And
if you buy it there,
Southwoods-
they will get there.
Oh, absolutely,
That's,
yeah.
But when you buy
Southwoods
it,
does that too.
And Southwoods too,
Yeah.
but if you
yes.
buy it at the, and I'm not trying to put down any of our local businesses, but if you buy it at the CVS store, no.
That's too bad.
Another. But what I love about it is it's not just the pictures, but there's the.
Are you in it, Jim?
probably a baby picture back in the 1700s. I'm in the I'm in the second one.
Yeah,
You have to look carefully, but
I will.
I am in the Southwick Revisited. I made it into that as a small child.
Yes,
But
Those are old. Here, I'm
it's
sorry.
well annotated. It tells the stories, and so it's not just looking at a picture of an old house. It's like whose old house it was and why it's
Right.
significant. And again, a fair amount of color by both yourself and Lee Hamburg
Right.
as to what's unique about this particular house. So.
Yeah.
So, boy, we've
Wonderful.
covered a lot of ground. What else did you have on your list of notes that you...
That was it. I
You-
just wanted to make a plug for
And-
our society.
And
that-
membership is open.
That's right.
And welcome
Right,
to...
$15 individual,
Woo!
$30 for a
Like the
family.
Grange.
Yeah, yeah. Is that a lot?
No,
In fact,
that's an ice cream.
Whoa! Probably for some families, that
Yeah.
is
Oh,
an
yeah.
ice cream
Yeah.
treat. But
Any other events going on? What's this year look like? Do you do the
We're
cemetery
going-
walk as you guys?
That's right,
What's the date on that? Do you know
the
roughly?
19th of October.
Okay.
Yeah, we do a cemetery walk with people in costume
Yeah.
who tell story. They stand
Yeah,
next
it's
to the
beautiful, yeah.
graveyard.
Have you done it, Joe?
gravestone.
Years ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
I did it the first time.
I never was
last-
asked to be anyone, thank God. I was still able to walk it, so. Yeah.
They didn't want to disturb the spirits
Yes, no,
down there
no, not that much, no.
with you. But
With
no.
me.
We usually have enough volunteers,
Yes, we do.
to be characters. A lot of people think it's really.
Marcus does a wonderful job.
Marcus
Marcus
and-
gets right into his role.
That's
He
right.
does. He does a really good
Right.
job. Yeah.
And it's fun. I mean,
Yes.
it's not a spooky thing.
No, not
it's
at
a
all.
historic.
It's very historical, all the way through. Bring the kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing that
That's
again
a
this
great
year.
event.
Yeah.
Wonderful historical content because again, if you've been to Salem, Massachusetts for their stuff in October, it's about 99.5% fiction, and just for fun, and there's nothing wrong with just for fun, but. All of these characters, Amicy Holcomb's one of them,
Yeah.
and I think one of the powder mill barons is one of them, and then somebody who got blown up in a powder mill.
That's right. That's right.
And well researched, and people have the characters are having fun
Yeah.
portraying their
Right.
characters. So
Right.
it's really wonderful. So. Let's close, Pat. We've plugged the Historical Society, and you do meet monthly through the not the summer but
That's
the other.
right, yeah.
And
We'll have a new one of these coming out at the end of the summer for the new year.
again
We
available.
meet 7 times a year in the evening meetings, and we try to have different types of speakers for that.
And
yeah.
again, available on the website
Yeah,
and,
right,
and the
right.
and the Facebook page. So
Right, right.
So let's close with something that we haven't talked about yet today. But what part of if you could take on another major research project about Southwick history, what fascinates you that you haven't already worked on? What topic or what era or what people would you like to learn more about? Because this has been a lifetime journey for you.
That's an interesting question. I don't know.
That's all right.
I so often get requests for various people,
Right.
and I go on that tangent and then that tangent. I haven't got a big project. I just keep going on stuff
Just on
like
Wednesdays still? Like back in the day, it was just Wednesdays that you worked on that.
Yeah.
For
Yes.
Mr. Arnold, have you expanded, or is it just on Wednesdays still?
Oh well, I don't work for him anymore.
I know
so
that.
I do it whenever.
Good.
I do it whenever. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're on call with the library and perhaps
That's
some other
right.
folks, so
That's
that's
right.
That'll keep you
That's
busy.
right.
pretty uncommon nowadays to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, do you want to meet some people here and answer
Yeah.
a few questions about
If I'm home,
Yeah.
I can do that,
Yeah.
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 And I'm happy to do it, yeah.
Well, your love of Southwick history shows,
Yes.
and I knew there was a lot to it. I'd never heard of the Rolodex, and that what a just a wonderful thing to have, and we will have you back in 2033 after you got the 1960. I will, Joe. In all honesty, I will show up in 1960.
Will you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get added, but I hopefully I'm not there. Could be an imposter or something. You never know.
Yeah.
But
You know those Putnams,
uh,
even back then.
I'm going to hand it back to Joe.
All
Thank
right.
you so much,
Well,
Pat.
we really appreciate you coming out and taking the time. I hope you enjoyed it,
I loved it,
and
yeah,
you can watch it on YouTube here in a couple of weeks.
okay.
All right, folks, that's going to conclude this episode, and we'll see you soon.